The Scottish Championship was a fun video to make, so I thought, why not just keep going down the ladder of Scottish football until people stop watching? This could be the last one. Here are the Scottish League One stadiums. Excelsior Stadium, Airdrieonians. The name of this stadium is in reference to the original Airdrieonian club, initially being known as Excelsior FC. So that's a nice callback. The cost of building this stadium was actually a major part of why the original Airdrieonians went bust. They didn't get too creative with the design of this stadium, but there are some nice superficial features, such as the hits of brick on the exterior, as well as the colour scheme within, matching the Airdrieonians kit. Not a bad stadium to start with. Recreation Park, home to Alloa Athletic, who have been playing here since the ground opened way back in 1895. The ground is noticeably smaller than the last one we saw, and clearly the amenities aren't quite as modern. There is one temporary looking stand that sticks out like a sore thumb, but one benefit to the ground's small capacity is that there are no large grandstands getting in the way of the scenery, and said scenery is quite beautiful. New Douglas Park, Clyde. We already talked about this stadium in the Scottish Championship video, as the ground is shared with Hilton Academical. On two sides it's similar to Excelsior Stadium, a modern British style ground, but then it goes downhill on the other two sides, not literally. It's just that there's a temporary stand to the east and then absolutely nothing but more synthetic turf at the southern end. It might be the prettiest, but the amenities are pretty decent overall. East End Park, Dunfermline Athletic. Ooh, these guys have gone 1 decade more than Alloa Athletic, having played at the ground since it opened in 1885. It's the oldest ground in the league. In fact, the ground itself has even been shifted slightly eastward since the early days, so is it even the same ground? Who can say? It's developed a lot in those years. In the 90s it was converted from an old-fashioned mostly terrace stadium into an all-seater, which remains to this day. It's one of the few grounds in the league with a natural grass field, which I'm a fan of. Falkirk Stadium, Falkirk. The people of Falkirk are simple folk when it comes to naming things. It's a stadium in Falkirk, Falkirk Stadium. In fact, the most common baby name in this town is Small Crying Human, which is usually shortened to Callum. Anyway, the stark three-sided nature of this stadium is a little bit odd. However, if they ever do decide to expand the capacity, at least they won't have to hire an architect to sort things out. Just Control-C over here, Control-V on the empty side. But yeah, oddness aside, it's a pretty good stadium. Meadowbank Stadium, Edinburgh. In these lower leagues, there always seems to be one stadium with a track. This is that one stadium. There is a good reason for the track though. The venue hosted the Commonwealth Games back in the day, not once but twice. That was actually what it was initially built for. It was a much bigger stadium back then. It has since been redeveloped and has been reduced to just one small stand. It was actually going to be demolished for a little while there, but people power came through in the end. New Central Park, Kelty Hearts. Kelty is a small former coal mining town of around 6,000 people, less than the capacity of some of the stadiums in this league, and considering that, they've got themselves a nice little stadium. There are a couple of stands with covered seating, a decent amount of stonework throughout the stadium which adds to the, well, I don't know, just makes it better. And just like in Alloa, there is some rather nice Scottish scenery in the backdrop, no complaints from me. Links Park, Montrose. Links Park sounds like either a great place to play golf, or just a mispronunciation of Lincoln Park. It is in fact a football stadium, as some of the more astute viewers may have picked up on. The ground is dominated by the main stand, which makes up the overwhelming majority of the seated capacity, yet surprisingly less than half of the overall capacity, due to all the standing room. But the most important thing about Links Park is that it doesn't even matter how hard you try. Keep that in mind. I designed this rhyme to remind myself how I tried so hard. Belmore, Peterhead. I would say that is an odd name for a town, but then I thought at least it's not Richard Head. You know, there was an Australian footballer called Richard Head, and he actually went by the name Dick Head. Different times. Anyway, Belmore is by far the northernmost ground in the league. I mean, Peterhead is north of Aberdeen, so I believe that makes it polar bear territory? Not sure. The two stands have a very interesting look to them. The combination of beige and a striking shade of blue goes well in my view. Palmerston Park, Queen of the South. You may be surprised to hear that this ground is the southernmost in the league. In fact, they're nearly touching England. This would have to be one of the more characterful grounds in the league. There's a nice mix of different stands built in different styles. You've got the main stand that's around 60 years old. Opposite that is a much newer stand with a cantilever roof. And perhaps most notably, we've got this terrace to the north, which is the largest covered terrace in the country, that being the country of Scotland. It's known for its clock up there on the roof. When that was installed, it amazed the locals who were still using sundials. So there you have it. They were surprisingly good. My favourite though would have to be, well, Palmerston Park. Yeah, the amenities are not even top 3 in this league, but character always seems to win me over, and this place has plenty of that. Consider subscribing if you're new, and as always, thanks for watching, have a good one.